Hey guys, this is John Newton, Snap-on John 100, and tonight I'm going to be continuing on in the Scout Youth series about talking the fundamentals of fire building. And today we're going to be talking about fires, and this is geared toward young people and people that don't have any skills. I just want to say first that if you are a young person, please do not try to start fires or practice any of this fire starting skills unless you are with a responsible adult, because the last thing we want is somebody to burn their house down or set a forest on fire. So I'm going to be talking to you about tinder sources and ways of starting your initial fire. When you start a fire, you have to start with a tinder. Be sure to practice this or gather this thing with the supervision of a responsible adult, so we won't have any accidents. Notes so that I don't forget anything. And I made a list of different things, all of which I don't have with me, but I don't think that's really going to matter. When we're talking about tinder, we're talking about the thing that actually starts to catch the spark. And what are the characteristics of tinder? Well, you're looking for something that is fluffy, something that has lots of surface area, dry, and there's two different types. There's natural tinder and there's man-made tinder. And tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about man-made tinders. I've got a list that I came up with, as many as I could think of, and so I'll run down the list. There's a ton of other things. You can probably think of some other things too, but just always think soft and fluffy and dry. The first thing a person thinks about when we're thinking about a man-made tinder is cotton. Cotton is soft and fluffy, and it's one of the best spark-catching tinders you can find. Okay, some of the other things people think about too that you can get at home is dryer lint. Here's an example of dryer lint. And I don't know if you can see this very closely, but the reason why I don't care for dryer lint is because I have two hairy cats and a hairy dog, and a lot of times we're washing things with synthetics. So that's one of the things that you always want to look out for. Is you don't want to use synthetics because they don't burn, they melt. So if you have dryer lint, you want to make sure it's nothing in there but towels or cotton sheets. The way we improve the burn time, because one of the things about cotton is it burns really fast, and it burns so fast that if you have the little kindling that you're using to start the fire, if it's the least bit damp, this will burn out before that gets started. One of the things you do to make cotton burn longer is you add something to it. And there's all kinds of things you can add to it. One of the things most people use, and I covered it up because I've got this lid taped on, but this is Vaseline petroleum jelly. So anything like that, this is skin salve. You could rub this into the cotton. Chapstick. Here's lip balm, another type. You can actually, if you have insect repellent, you can spray that into it. This is flammable. Hand sanitizer will make it flammable. This right here is a container that I've put cotton balls, but I soaked them in oil so that I can use this as a dual purpose. I can clean and lubricate my equipment when I'm out in the field, but this will also burn really good. So that's a double use. Other forms of natural tinder actually you might have with you. Here's paper towel or Kleenex or something. Here's something you might not have thought of. Rubber. These are called Ranger bands, and they're actually made by taking a bicycle inner tube and just cutting slices off of it, and they make super heavy duty rubber bands, but they will burn for a really long time also and allow you to get a fire started. Here's cotton. This is a cotton mop head. So this is cotton that's basically like in a rope form, but you can utilize this also. Another good source. Well, let me run down the things that you can add to these, and just that'll make it easier. So improvements on the cotton, and this also will improve your dryer lint too, or anything else, a paper towel. Add Vaseline petroleum jelly or lip balm, gel wax, and I've made my cotton balls, I soak them with what's called gel wax, and that is a form of candle wax, but it's a gel that you can buy at a hobby store in the candle department. And I've got a video on how to melt that and make those, but that burns the longest, gel wax. Suntan lotion, bug spray, alcohol. Here's an alcohol prep pad. If you're in trouble, if you've got a first aid kit, there's all kinds of things made out of cotton in here, and there's also alcohol wipes. There's also ointments that you can rub into it also that will prolong the burn time. That goes along with the hand sanitizers, mostly made of alcohol. Beeswax, you can use beeswax, paraffin, so you can melt beeswax and dip cotton in beeswax or paraffin. You can add cooking oil to them, anything with waxes or oils in it. Even brake fluid will burn. And the same thing with dryer lint. You can add all those things with the same thing. Another form of man-made tinder, it's a natural fiber, but this is a spool of jute twine. And if you cut this up and unravel the string and tease it out, you can end up with what looks like this, which is like a bird's nest, and this is a fantastic tinder source. This is something good if you're using one of the primitive methods. If you got something to take a spark and you put that in there, you can blow this into flame. So that's another source. Another one I have here is steel wool and a battery. The one you want to use is the 4/0. There's grades. This company has 3, 2, 1, 0, 00, 000. 4 zeros is what you're looking for. That's 4/0. That's the finest. You want it to be super fine, and you can use a 9-volt battery is the best. But if you have a couple of two double A batteries, or C's or D's, you can use duct tape and tape them end to end, making sure you keep the polarity right. Put the plus side to the minus side of the battery that you're taping it to, so you end up with a plus on one end and a minus on the other end. Tape that together so they're making contact. The reason why you have to use 2 of them is because they're 1.5 volts, and you need at least 3 volts for this to work. So this will work because it's 9 volts. So this is like one of the best forms of ignition, is using a 9-volt battery. And you just tease some out and you touch it, and you instantly have burning steel, which is extremely, burns really hot. To put that out, don't want to set off a smoke detector. So anyway, a steel wool and a 9-volt battery. One of the things I do to keep my 9-volt battery from shorting out or touching anything is I take a wide ranger band and I put that over it, just like this. I do this with other batteries too that I'm storing in if I got them in my backpack, and that keeps them from touching anything that's conductive and ending up discharging the battery. But just like this, and now the contacts are completely covered up with rubber. So that's a safe way of storing that. Another form of that you take with you that's a man-made, and you can make this in the field, but this is something you have and you take with you, is charred cloth. And this is cotton material that is actually cooked in the absence of oxygen, and it carbonizes, and this is something that will take a spark really easily. I've got a couple of examples of, here's another example of something. This is a natural material, but I processed it here, and sometimes the meaning of man-made material might be better suited as man-processed material, because it's going to be something you carry with you and have with you when you need it. This is a little piece of fat wood, which is pine saturated with resin or pine sap, and this is extremely flammable. So I've cut these down, and I keep this in my fire kits so I can shave. I can either split off pieces like this and use like as almost a match, or I can take this and shave little shavings off and put a spark to it. Another thing that you can use, this is Vaseline impregnated cardboard or blotter paper. This is blotter paper that you can get at a stationery store that absorbs ink from the old fountain pen days, but you can take pieces of that and either soak that in paraffin or soak it in melted petroleum jelly, and then put it in a pill container like this, and you can use this as a fire starter. What you're looking for is anything that will increase the burn time, because most of the tinder sources burn too fast and they don't give you enough time. So if you have something to increase the burn time, then that will help. I've got a couple examples of fire kits, and it's about being prepared. So any of these things with man-made tinders, here's an example of spray oil that you can spray on something. You probably wouldn't have that in your pack, but if you had your car or whatever and you were able to spray that on some cotton source, this is a cotton rounds for makeup, different things like that, that will increase the burn time. But it's mostly about being prepared, and you can carry a large, I've got a couple examples of fire kits that I've carried. They're larger, it can be this big or all the way down to something as small as an Altoids tin. And some of the things that I carry are man-made, and some of them are things that I've processed. But here is in a Ziploc bag and rolled up is some cotton balls that I've soaked in gel wax. And this paper is also the newspaper that I soaked them in, so that's impregnated with gel wax too, so that would burn too. In here is a big hank of jute twine, so if I need to use that. Here's several pieces of fat wood. This is a waterproof container that contains lifeboat matches, which were the kind that you can, if you take a look at them, they've got a really long head. These will actually burn underwater, so they're the ideal type match to have when you need a match. Some examples here. This is a tin that has charred cloth in it. And here's a fire piston with a little container of grease. In here, there's a lighter. I've got a butane lighter. Another little piece of jute twine. This is a butane lighter. You want to have a clear one so you can see that it's got fuel in it. And then this is a Strike Force fire piston. So it has a striking surface, and then this right here will produce sparks when you strike against it. and it's designed so it actually has like a little cavity in the back here that you can put a Tinder quick tab. This is another form of man-made fire starting material. It's called wet fire, and it's something that will burn. It'll actually float on water and burn. So that's another example of some man-made product. There's also the fire starters that you can get at hardware stores for starting fires of barbecue grills. You take a piece of that. I also have an extra knife in there. Okay, so that's just examples of some of the stuff I brought, or I have. Another example of something that you could bring with you is this is inner bark that I processed at home. As you can take a look at that, I processed that at home, but you can take this, put it in a little tiny plastic bag. You wouldn't want to take this giant bag, but put this in a little small plastic baggie, and it's a natural material, but you have something that you don't have to gather out in the wild. The next video is going to be on natural materials, and I've got videos on where to find them out in the wild, and I'll be going over natural things with you. But I just thought I would go over some of the man-made tinders. There's, I'm sure you guys could come up with a lot of other things that you could use. Oh, I've got even more. Hexamine tablets, that's another chemical tablet that you can use to start a fire. Tinder Quick is a cottony thing that's impregnated with flammable material. Surefire tablets, Scotch-Brite pads, I already said 4/0 steel wool, alcohol wipes, styrofoam burns. Some of these things will burn, but you don't want to breathe the vapor. So when you're out in the field and you're starting a fire with some of these things, make sure you keep your face away from the smoke. Store-bought fat wood. These pieces right here are store-bought, and I just cut them up. Fire starters, like for instance Weber, Coleman makes them. Corn chips, they have a lot of oils in them, and corn is also flammable, so you can start fires with corn chips. Alcohol-based hand sanitizer, charred cotton, fire paste or fire ribbon. That is a fire starting chemical paste that comes in a tube like a toothpaste tube. And the last one was the rubber bicycle inner tube. So these are nice to have. Ranger bands, if you cut them up, you could get these tubes. Bicycle stores have tons of tubes that they take off of bikes, and they just throw them away. So if you ask them for them, they'll just give them to you for free. But if you cut these up, you've got fantastic rubber bands that hold things together, like this is held together with these bands, and then you can also burn them if you need to. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I sure did, and until we meet again, God bless.